Hey dudes, and welcome back to the Bants. As always, I am your host, the Bants, and it is finally Friday, so it is of course time for our second What's Happening in Fashion for the week, so let's just get right into it. And first up, of course, we have our art stories for the day. And in our first story of the day, Pow Wow Rotterdam just released a nice little video recap, kind of highlighting some of the artists there, as well as some of their work, so if you're interested in checking that out, I highly recommend watching this. Then renowned street artist Invader showed off some of his newest pieces from his recently wrapped gallery showing in LA. So if you're interested in seeing what he's been up to, I definitely give this a look. And finally, Aldo Sergio showed off some of his newest works, and I just thought these were super creative. If the idea of taking a more classical work and then censoring it, for the lack of a better term, sounds interesting to you, then I highly recommend checking out some of these paintings as well. Okay, and now moving into our fashion section for the day. First up, brand Kith showed off their second fall-winter 2018 delivery, and honestly, I just thought it was alright. What we see here is pretty much in line with what you'd expect out of a fall-winter collection from Kith for the most part. That is a bunch of warmer and heavier silhouettes in a wide variety of colors and fabrics and plaids, which, don't get me wrong, isn't a bad thing, it's just really nothing new from the brand. Though I do have to say that that hybrid knit pullover is pretty interesting, though I'm pretty sure they've done that before as well. But aside from the more consistent pieces in this collection, there are definitely a couple of things that feel off. The reason being is that because with a couple of the pieces here, it seems like they're trying to draw inspiration from one of two places. The first of which being Union's in-house brand, and the second being, surprise surprise, Tommy Hilfiger. For example, take a lot of these overcoats and heavy use of pastel color. That to me feels very Union in-house line. And honestly, I don't know why anybody would want to take inspiration from that, because as I've said time and time again, it's pretty fucking terrible. And on the flip side, the overcoats once again, plus a lot of the more prep and preppy vibes I'm getting out of this collection, feel very much like the collab that Kith and Tommy did earlier this year. And unfortunately, that whole style is gonna just be a big no for me, because no matter how much Ronnie wants to be Tommy Hilfiger, at the end of the day, he's just not Tommy Hilfiger. And don't get me wrong, I have said many times now that I thought the collaboration previously was fantastic. But the reason it worked is because we were taking two competing styles from two very different genres and putting them together. But what you, or in this case what Ronnie, has to realize is that that more prep style is completely Tommy Hilfiger. It's not Kith. Kith, when it comes down to it, is streetwear through and through. So you can collaborate with Tommy Hilfiger and Bergdorf Goodman and Greg Lauren all you want, but that will never be your consumer base, and that will never be Kith as a brand either. Not to say that any of those collaborations were bad, they were all fantastic, it just is what it is. So in conclusion, there were some actually very nice pieces in this collection when they stayed pretty much along their consistent path, but as far as everything else in this collection, honestly, I think it's pretty bad. Alright, and up next, brand Riot Division showed off their fall-winter 2018 lookbook, and I think they did just another great job here. Now, I'm not really going to speak too much to this collection, mainly for two reasons. The first of which being that I've really been covering just way too much techwear recently, and the second reason being just kind of like how I mentioned with Kith prior, Riot Division also tends to be pretty consistent in their styles and designs, so I'm only just going to highlight a couple of things here. The first thing I want to highlight, of course, is just the lookbook itself. I don't know if you've ever seen a Riot Division lookbook before, but if you are a fan of fashion photography and just interesting lookbooks in general, I highly recommend checking this and all of the rest of their lookbooks out. Now moving on to the pieces themselves, it is again just a solid collection, and I was really happy to see just a nice variety in the amount of pieces here, leading to basically a nice amount of of possible layering and some fits you could get out of this entire lookbook. But as for pieces I wanted to highlight in this collection, I highly recommend checking out some of the more heavily pocketed jackets and bags here. They're super technical and super functional, and even with as much going on there, they don't feel bulky, so this is pretty much exactly what you'd want from designs like these. But by far the best pieces in this collection are the pants, surprisingly enough. These are the best tech pants I have seen in a long time. Riot Division does an absolutely excellent job of blending some very sleek silhouettes with some really nice details, such as some intricate pockets and things like that, resulting in just a perfect mix of form and function. So all in all, if you're a fan of techwear and haven't heard of Riot Division, definitely check them out. And even if you're not a huge fan of techwear, if you've just been looking for some very interesting pants, this is definitely a great place to start. Then, in probably one of the most bizarre lookbooks I've seen in a long time, brands Fila and Schott NYC came together for a fall-winter 2018 collaboration, and all I can really say is, who asked for this? It kind of almost just seems like whoever decided to come up with this collaboration just closed their eyes and just threw darts at a board filled with names, and that's how this came about. And honestly, it looks just about as cohesive as it sounds. It really just doesn't make a lot of sense. The colors are weird, the details are weird, the designs are weird, and realistically, all of these pieces look way worse in normal light than they do stylized here. So congrats really to whoever styled and photographed this lookbook. You definitely polished a turd. And unfortunately, because of all of these things, this collection ranges from meh at best to just awful, just completely awful. I mean, just take a look at this Sherpa jacket. It's fucking hideous. Like, why? Why does this exist? So once again, this is just more proof that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. And lastly, but definitely not least, Sight by Yohji Yamamoto showed off their newest knitwear collection, and these are incredible. Just fucking incredible. Now, before we get into the collection here, there is something I want to clear up. It does say in the article that all of these pieces are reissued pieces from specific seasons, and they mention 91, 95, and 04. So I went looking for either photos or videos from all of these seasons, and either A, I couldn't actually find menswear videos or photos from any of these seasons, or B, I did, and none of these pieces were in these collections. And C, I also checked the women's wear collections for the exact same things and came up with the exact same results as well. So take all of these pieces being reissues with a grain of salt. However, at the very least, are they inspired by all of these seasons? Well, from what I was able to see, yes, that is most definitely the case. But really, either way, I don't think it matters, because when it comes down to it, these pieces are just absolutely wonderful. These pieces are just the epitome of what you'd expect out of Yohji in color and design and silhouettes. And even greater still is just how immaculate the details on these knits are. I mean, I have to reiterate that these are knit pieces, and look how detailed they are. It's just fucking incredible. I have to say it again. And as if that already wasn't great enough by itself, for those of you who didn't know, Sight by Yohji Yamamoto is his online brand, which is supposed to be more entry level and easily accessible to people, which means that the prices are pretty good as well. Which means that for each one of these knit pieces here, for as just flawless as they pretty much are, they all average at about $300 each, which is just fucking amazing for this level of quality and skill. So even if you consider yourself even the slightest lover of fashion, just go check out this collection for its beauty if nothing else. And if this is in fact your style, then definitely pick up these pieces. These are absolutely grail tier. And with that, finally, let's move on into our articles for the day. And up first, Grailed put out a very nice opinion piece, kind of going over Slimane's style, especially now that he's at Celine, and whether or not it can kind of compete with what high fashion has become. So if that sounds interesting to you, I definitely give this a read. Then the New York Times did a day in the life of piece following Luke and Lucie Meier, the couple behind currently Jill Sander and OAMC. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about what their day-to-day entails, I'd give this a look. And lastly, Vice sat down for a nice but quick interview with Dries Van Noten, kind of talking about what he's been up to and some of his more recent collections. So if you're interested in hearing what he has to say, I'd definitely check this out as well. Alright guys, and with that, we've reached the end of our second and final What's Happening in Fashion for the week. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and as always, if you want to read any of the articles I talked about today or see any photos from lookbooks I wasn't able to include, I've linked everything in the description down below. And thank you guys all once again for watching my channel and supporting my content. I hope you all have a great weekend ahead of you, and as always, until next time.